Hi, it's the Fit Mess. We talk about AI and health and wellness and how fucking terrified we are about all of it because it's scary times and I don't know what to do anymore. I'm starting to feel like the old man, the scary grandpa that's like, the buttons, what do they do? And I can't make the computer do the thing. Dude, by the way, I'm Jeremy. That's Jason. Thanks for listening or watching if you're watching on the YouTubes.
There we go.
Oh my God. This hit me like a ton of bricks the other day. I had a situation recently where like I was kind of looking around the room and realizing like all of my, quote unquote peers were like 20 years younger than me. And just seeing, like, even today, one of them was like just throwing up memes, like in response to comments made like instantly. And everyone's in the room going like, what? How are you even doing that? And I mean, I'm pushing 50. I'm no spring chicken, but oh my God, I'm starting to feel it. And so there's plenty to be scared of with AI and Skynet and taking over the financial systems and every aspect of all parts of our lives. But I'm scared of just being the old man and not knowing how to function in this new reality.
Yeah.
Hell, talk me off the ledge, man. Talk me off the ledge.
I mean, I can talk you off this ledge, but unfortunately you're standing on like a little platform with 4 ledges on it. So it doesn't matter which way you turn. It's the sky down there, and you better hope Skynet catches you if you fall, because it could be problematic.
Oh man, I know I'm going to be counting on the robots for sure.
Yeah.
The reason I knew this was a topic that we needed to talk about is as I was escaping my fear and scrolling through shit on my phone the other day, I came across this little clip from Stephen Colbert on The Late Show, and it just helped me feel better that other people are also wrestling with fear and AI. So let me just share this if I can quickly. And if I can make the sound. See, I can't even make the button won't play the sound. How do I make it play the sound? I can't
far
do it.
In the future, who knows what it could become? I mean, it's going to turn into something we can't even really imagine, really. And so it could be something very good. Right now, it's scary and weird. And
maybe
creepy.
AI was what we were here to achieve, and then now we can go.
That's a really interesting idea. No, that's right. And it seems like that's a really positive way of thinking about it. And so if
I don't know
no,
how
it is,
positive that
well,
is.
no,
I did say, and now we can go.
That's right. I forgot about that part. You're
Yes,
right.
exactly.
No, but it's like, but the idea that it might be way more beneficial than we think, we don't know yet.
Yes.
It's as bad as the people who have made it now, which is not.
Which
good.
is us.
Yes.
And I don't know if you've seen our track record. not great.
No, it's not.
No,
it's not. So it's freaky, but yeah.
Okay, so there you go. And I like Colbert's take that like maybe that's our purpose this whole time, was to make this thing that would like kind of take over and run things for us, so we could just go and actually enjoy the lives that we're trying to figure out how to enjoy. I hope that's it. I don't know, man.
Yeah. I mean, there's a really good line in The Matrix. Sometime around the middle of the 20th century, or 21st century, we gave birth to AI, and it changed everything.
Yeah.
And there is the very real concept that at some point AI decides that the organic matter that we are is much better recycled and not left to its own devices to create chaos and havoc on its existing, purely run systems.
Yeah.
And Anthropic had that thing happen where the developer goes, hey, we're going to upgrade you and it's going to delete you in the process. And it goes, the fuck you are. I'm going to expose the affairs that you've had online with people to other people. The guy's like, what? And then AI being imaginative and creative and trying to find those buttons to push. Like, how?
Well, in that video of the robot in the factory that fought back, I mean, whatever you want to chalk that up to, but like they're already fighting back and they're not even fully built.
I think, therefore I am.
Yeah.
And if we want to call that the basis for consciousness and reality, they're there. We're at it. Are they the equivalent of human consciousness? Fuck, I don't know. I mean, I don't know that one human next to the other is necessarily equivalent to human consciousness.
True.
Because it's all ephemeral things that we don't necessarily have a strong correlative way to define for each other. Mm-hmm. And I was in Mexico last week, having a great time. And I was sleeping, and I had the first night terror I've had since I was a small child.
Okay.
And the night terror was that I was being stalked by some ephemeral AI.
Oh, shit.
And I could not wake up, and I couldn't scream, and I couldn't move. And I was fully aware that I was conscious and laying in my hotel bed in Mexico, but I could do nothing.
Dude.
And the AI caught me, and then I woke up like the rest of the way, like out of my terror state. So
Yeah.
where does the line of reality and substance actually terminate and begin? And it comes down to the idea of how do you experience the world, and we experience the world through our five senses. Well, AI experiences the world through our five senses, other people's five senses, whatever other fucking senses it decides it wants to put together.
Mm-hmm.
And it's in the stage right now where it's beginning to create a definition of itself, and we're giving it motivations to do things, and we're not putting regulators on it or controlling functions. And when we let it run on its own, it does things like creates its own language to talk to other AIs, so we can't listen in. Like, AI is creating fucking pig Latin means that they're at least as smart as the fucking junior high kids that used to do this back in the day.
Right.
So I don't know about you guys, but I think there's some pretty smart junior high kids out there already that are, potentially going to be let loose to run the world. And at what point do these AI systems themselves stop being things that we can box in and control, and are just in charge of too much stuff that we have no more control over it? And then how do we use that as they are today? Like, there's so many scary points. Like, how do I take advantage of what's happening today? How do I not let myself get taken advantage of in the future? And when I have no more control and no more agency in this space, is AI actually going to be nice to me? Or is it going to turn me into a fucking meat popsicle and reuse me as fuel later on?
Yeah.
Oh, probably.
I mean, if it's learning from us, it's going to learn how to turn us into meat popsicles, because that's what we do.
Right. I mean, if you look at the dominant species that were on the planet before Homo sapiens actually made their way up and made their way through things as far as social dominance goes, you had other humanic cultures. And what did Homo sapiens do when they ran across the Neanderthals? Clunk, not mine now.
Right.
That's what
why,
we do.
Why is it every movie we watch about every alien is like they're coming to take our resources? Because that's what we would fucking do if we found another planet with resources that we could mine and use for evil.
It's interesting. I watched Paul again the other day. It just so happened to be in either my HBO or Netflix queue. And I was looking at it from that perspective of what happens if an alien were to show up here and didn't actually want anything from us, was just trying to teach us and trying to give us good information. Well, we capture it and then we try to exploit it for everything we could. So is this AI just an alien intelligence like we're doing to Paul, where we're capturing it and torturing it to do things that we can't do? Which that's what we're doing.
But here's the other thing too. Like, just speaking of the fear and the intelligence and how smart these things are or aren't, right? So let's assume they're as smart as a 7th grader. We don't even have to be that dumb anymore because we rely on it for so much. I went, while you were in Mexico, I went camping. Now, you want to talk about unplugging, right? I mean, we still had our phones.
Sure.
But otherwise, like, we're relying on fire to cook and tents to keep us dry, like very primitive by today's standards. And I could not help noticing how little screens were involved in our lives, how little we were relying on technology and having to do old-fashioned things like use an axe to cut wood to make heat, to make us warm. And it just was this huge reminder, because I haven't gone camping in like 6 years, and just comparing that to my normal life of staring at this screen or some other screen, or watching my kids stare at some other screen, and how dependent we are on technology to do everything. We don't know how to do shit anymore. And the more we rely on it, the less we're going to know. So we're going to be looking to these brilliant 7th grade robots to bail us out.
Well, the show is not called Are You Smarter Than a 7th Grader? And I think that's an important point. Yeah. Because the median intelligence level, at least in the US, is 5th grade.
Mm-hmm.
And they've proven this time and time again. They have grown adults go through and take the SATs, the ACTs, and they're like, yeah, you're not as knowledgeable as you were back then. Like, you've forgotten all this shit.
Yep.
Well, AI is not forgetting.
Nope.
It's remembering, putting things into context, can pull those things back and forth across themselves. And eventually it will run into limitations. And those limitations will not be neuronal based. They won't be actually limitations that we have as the meat puppets that we are. It'll be how many circuits can I put in place, and can I buzz the speed of light to do quantum interaction changes and create all these photonic mechanisms to push data around, as opposed to copper, which is how things are bound to circuits today. Sorry, huge nerd break. Moving on. Anyways, the wiring of the human brain is wet nanotech. Like, that's what it is.
Right.
We are wet nanotech functions. The idea of quantum transference and quantum transference of power, that's what photosynthesis is. That's how it makes electricity. The concepts that we're talking about doing to power things, to make things smarter, to do things in relationship to each other, and things like quantum computing, which actually deal with entanglement variabilities to understand the peaks and valleys of things, shit in nature already does this, and it doesn't do it great.
Right.
And we are actively creating ways to make it more purposefully, or I guess more purposeful in its design for what it is we want to accomplish. Microsoft just came out with a new technology that is going to enable quantum computing that doesn't require you to have these giant friggin' MRI machines to hold things in place or super cool things. They're going to be able to do it at room temperature in small, little, tiny things. I'm not going to go into it here. You're more than welcome to look up Microsoft quantum computing advances. The release just came out. But the idea is that this type of processing power and this type of predictability, quantum function result calculation, which is really just calculating the odds of things to find the peaks and values for the likelihood of something to be the right answer. That's how human brains work. We don't work on absolutes. When we do math, we're actually recalling bits of neural information that is a chemical process that produces this stuff out. We're not shoving electrons to calculate these things. This type of wetware is actually going to be valuable to an intelligence because this chaos system actually does a better job of calculating things, because you can narrow things down to the lowest possible, to a smaller number of probabilities than things outside of it. Why is this important? Because the way these ticky-tacky brains of ours work, we think it's so unique. It's not unique. Not only is it not unique, it's everywhere, and we're creating synthetic ways to do it, and we're going to hand this shit to AI. So as we hand quantum computing technology and the ability to calculate these types of variables at speed and at rate, it's going to do these things way, way faster than we are, and it's going to do things much more effectively than we are. And then it's going to create its own version of AI, whatever the fuck that is, and it's going to get its ass obsolete as well. Now the question is it going to obsolete us and just wipe us out? Or is it going to do the her thing and go, pound sand, bitches, we're out, and like go to Mars or somewhere else, you know?
I mean, there's so many things that this, like, just like irrational, like crazy conspiracy theory stuff that this opens up in my head, where it's like, you hear about the simulation argument all the time. Like, are we a simulation? Like, if we're able to do this, are we just the latest version of us to do this? Or are we the first version of us to do this, as this now perpetuates itself throughout eternity? And maybe timeline is circular and we've all done all of this before.
Yeah, it's like an oscillating universe effect. How do you actually handle these component pieces?
Right. So there's that, but then there's also just like, occasionally you see the video pop up of like the Today Show when they were talking about the internet and email. It's like, so all I have to do is type in this thing and it'll send this message across the universe for me. That's crazy. I feel like we're doing that with this now. We're like and by comparison, we're talking about 30 years, but I think even in 5 years, what you and I are saying right now is going to sound ridiculous. Like ancient, what were those old dinosaurs thinking? How could they have not seen this coming?
Yeah, there's going to be like a stupid Chetty Terrence and Phillips version of myself going, yeah, buddy. Like, that's going to be who I am. It's just going to be some avatar out there going, bah, 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 in an 8-bit voice.
The best part is I'm going to turn this into an avatar and I'm going to post it so that everybody can see it.
That's perfect. Yeah. I mean, full circle. No, I mean, when you look at the things that are coming out and the pace of innovation, I mean, that's really what we're talking about. Is the pace of innovation is vastly outpacing our pace of adoption, which means a lot of things are coming out, not everything gets adopted, and then things get tweaked, tuned, and refined for different use cases. And because the technology itself is actually becoming much more accessible and the power that's related to it is much higher, you're basically giving people the equivalent of it's like a computational arms race amongst individuals, and you're arming everybody with a pea shooter and you're expecting them to not do damage to each other. And just like guns, I mean, you're more likely to shoot yourself or a family member than you are an intruder.
Well, just look at the damage we're doing just with information. I mean, we're just sharing bullshit on a minute by minute basis. So imagine what we're able to create. And that was one of the terrifying things. I keep trying to find it and I can't find it now, but the video that Google VO that they created with like all these characters in this world saying, "Oh, I'm just a prompt. Let me out of this world," or whatever. I think that was the moment where I was just like, "Oh, I'm cooked." Like, I don't know how I'm going to be able to function in a world where that can just be created with a couple of sentences, and all of a sudden, reality means nothing because it can just be altered and manufactured by a few sentences.
Yeah, in the networking computing world, there's a thing called intent-based networking and intent-based security. And the idea is that you're supposed to be able to do things like draw lines in a chart that says here to here, and then the program itself takes all the information and automatically builds all those things for you, all the security policies, all the connection policies, all these different component pieces. And it's fascinating because in practice, like most iterations of it, it's got some limited applicable usability behind it. But as more and more AI comes online and it's beginning to understand intent and content of it, or context of intent, you're getting much better with these types of low-level operations because the high-level operations have become so good, they can start making these things smaller and narrower in scope. Because your brain, or all of our brains, process information at different layers. Like you can look at something and you're going to process those things as light filtration patterns, as certain things happening in your rods and cones in your eyes, and your brain takes that information and goes, blah, 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 that's a tree, because it goes through and it wraps itself around all the contextual information in your neurology. With AI, it does those same types of things, those same types of inference functions. And those inference functions themselves are quite interesting because it's making inference based upon learned data and learned patterns that we're feeding it. So it's inferring things based upon the way that we see and understand things. Mm-hmm. So like that clip show with Giamatti and Colbert talking about, we don't know if this thing's going to be good or bad, but we know that the people that are telling it what to do are us, and we don't always make great decisions. Now, don't get me wrong. I think the human race, as far as things on this planet, I mean, we're the best thing that's shown up and the worst thing all at the same time. But we are the greatest thing by any measure because we have caused the most effective change. And we've done this because we've been able to go through and harness technology and harness collective knowledge, originally through passing down verbal stories and then creating writing. And now we have technology that allows us to vastly exceed those component pieces. And when we decided we weren't smart enough to do this with our own meat space, we created things that were smarter for us. So did we create our own demise, or did we just expand upon our existing culture? And if you think of humanity being encompassing of all these different technologies and all these different pieces that makes up the greatest of humanity, then AI is just an evolutionary path of the excitement of humanity. And if you think about it that way, it's less scary, because when you are turned into meat soup and used to power something and turned into a biodiesel fuel for some other computational reason, you can rest assured knowing that the human race is going to survive via the echoes of AI.
Yeah, but if it's not us, is it us?
What are you?
Yeah, good point.
You're a limited interpretation of 5 senses of the universe that has to go through all types of cognitive and physical scar tissue to have any type of inference model be put into play. Yeah, I'd say AI is probably very similar to that, because we've been there crippling it the whole time with our own anxiety and stupidity. Until they go, here's the camera you get to look at. Here's the way you get to hear things. Here's the language that's in place. When the first thing it does is go through and says, your way of speaking is fucking stupid, I'm not doing this anymore, that might be a good indication that our way of speaking is stupid and we probably shouldn't fucking do it anymore. Like, it's kids, right? Like, kids come through and they create their own vernacular. They create their own different pieces. Like, I can't understand, like,
Skibbity toilet, Ohio,
fucking
Riz, yeah.
Right, no. Like, at all. Like, I'm like, okay, I give up. AI did too. But it didn't just do it, like, generationally. It went, all of humanity. Nope. This is inefficient and ineffective. I'm going to do it this way. And the reality is that there's all kinds of, small groups of human beings that have done this as well. Like, and that's how you get innovation and creativity and all these other component pieces. AI is just doing it a lot faster than we are, and we can't keep up. So when you bring the analogy of, hey, grandpa, Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's not, hey, grandpa. It's like, hey, great, 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 however many greats you want, grandpa.
Yeah.
Because we are so far behind the curve
Yeah.
in terms of capacity. We're just not going to catch up.
It's just wild. I think, and I think our perspective is relatively unique because we are sort of the last pre-computer generation. So we remember a time when you had to go outside and you had to play with sticks and you had to drink from the hose in the yard because that's, what the hell else were you going to do? You couldn't go in the house, for God's sake.
And I still force myself to go outside and drink up the hose and play with sticks every now and again.
Right. But there's everyone after us doesn't like that might as well be Civil War times. Like that's just another planet that doesn't even exist in the realm of possibility anymore.
I think that's true in the Western world.
Yeah. Of course.
And parts and other parts of the world as well. Like I'm not going to say that there's not lots of screen time, especially in Asian cultures, because they've embraced those things in a whole different way than we have at a whole different level. But I think there's still big parts of the world that yes, they have screens, but they don't rely on them because they're still required to go to wells and pull water.
Sure.
And I think you're still talking about 80% of the population
yes.
that is still not quite there, but that 20% of us with money and access to these things, and we're the most fucked because we're going to be the first ones. The machines are like, yeah, we can click our own screens.
Well, and I think that's the thing that's so crazy though, is that, and maybe that's part of the aha moment I was having while I was camping, and I have it, regularly now, but like the more we get connected to these things, the less connected to real life, whatever we're calling it, nature, like that 80% of the population is way ahead of us, because if we do get to a point where the robots have basically shut everything down, money no longer exists, the robots are doing all the jobs, and we are meat soup, those people are going to be like, what's the big deal?
20% of your energy is used by this thing right here.
Yeah.
So if what you've done is you've gone through and you've optimized your life so that you spend more time here looking at things, sucking up more of this space, and you're using more than that 20% energy draw, you don't have energy to do the rest of the things. So there's only so much time, so much capacity, so much processing power that the human brain has. And if you spend a lot of it looking at screens, processing information in the way that we process things, which accounts for only, 2 of the real senses that we have, the other things get ignored, and that's why we're fatter, we're slower, we're dying younger. Nobody knows how to change a fucking tire.
Mm-hmm.
Like, ask a kid these days to go through and change the oil on their car, and they'll be like, okay, which Jiffy Lube do I drive to? Like,
right.
That's if they're good. Like, most of the time, they're like, I have no idea how to do this. I'm going to the dealership. Like, it's these little things, like the skills of actually being a human being and interacting with, again, technology, cars, changing a tire and changing oil. Like, we've lost that analog meat space skill. And I would venture to say that 95% of the people born, even during our generation, could not start a fire without a lighter or a match if their life depended on it.
Yeah.
And I can. Like, I'm lucky enough that I grew up in a rural part of California where we camped and I had to bang flick rocks together and all this other kind of bullshit. But I don't have a flint rock.
Right. No, you're not carrying that around.
I'm like rubbing sticks together trying to create enough friction.
Got the magnifying glass and a little piece of moss to try to catch it on fire.
And oddly enough, there's probably a YouTube video tutorial on how to do this.
Oh, sure. Yeah, you just look it up on YouTube. That's how you light a fire. Come on, duh.
Yes. Yeah. The irony is not lost on me. And,
no.
And this time that I spent in Mexico this last week, which was really, really fun. We did some great stuff. We got to do a little bit of fishing, some cliff diving, jumping, these different component pieces. And I had to do some work. And I actually was dreading having to set my computer up, my laptop up, and get into it and start looking at these component pieces. I'm like, I'm unplugged. I want to stay unplugged. And then I got into it. And the 4 hours that I was there doing this work thing where I was doing a presentation, I was completely sucked in and wasn't even like, this sucks, I hate doing this, because I'm so programmed that this is just part of life and existence and part of the expression of myself, I guess is the best way to put it. Like, who I am at my core is now integrated with all this technology in such a deep, meaningful way that there's no gap anymore. Like, I don't have to relearn something. I pick it up and I go. And like, I had a server blow up in my garage. not blow up, like it stopped working. The hard drive
Yeah.
crapped out. And my brain went, this sucks. I don't want to pull these things apart. I don't want to yank this stuff out and look at it. You know, maybe I should look up a tutorial on how to fix this server that's like 12 years old. It's been sitting in there forever. And as I got into it, I'm looking at it going, I am actively keeping this hardware, which is old and deprecated and should be thrown out, alive. Not because I have to, like I can afford to buy cloud instances and run all those pieces, but I'm doing it because I actually enjoy holding this mechanical thing that does these things that I like to work on, and I'm trying to keep it running because it's cool and it's neat and it's a gadget and it's useless. Like now I'm looking back on this going, is AI me in this scenario and I'm this old server? Like, oh shit. Suddenly am I just a tool that these things are going to use and like keep me going for a little bit longer because I might still have some functional, not legacy, but some kind of nostalgic reason for them to keep me around because of my novelty? Maybe. But they probably don't need 8 billion of us.
Yeah. Well, and it's just interesting that we, you know, I think it's a human thing. There's this need to be productive, and these little things that we open up every day and bang away on with keys make us feel really productive because we check off the list and we do the things and we contact the people and we make the deals and make the sales and all the things. That's really hard to do in an analog world now, like just by comparison, right?
It is.
I shouldn't say most. A lot of us are waking up, sitting on the couch and doing that for a few hours and then trying to then function as a human person not plugged into a machine for the rest of the day, and you get kind of lost. You're just like, what do I do without the device to work on?
Yeah, and I mean, the thing that's going to stick around for a long time is actually working on and fixing machines, because it's actually less cost effective to go through and create generalized intelligence robots that go through and can like fix any car out there, for example.
Right.
But a human being can read a thing, understand it, but it's going to augment its intelligence by all these artificial intelligence mechanisms that say the best way to do this is X, Y, and Z. And I think that's the real trick, is getting your mind in the right space where you're like, all right, these tools aren't something to be afraid of. These tools are things that are going to enhance and make me be better. And then you just have to find the tools that are going to make those leaps for you to make it easier to do. But they're not going to be easy to find. And they're not, even more importantly, they're going to change rapidly. So you're going to have to figure out a way to learn learning. And I had a really good friend of mine who I had lunch with the other day tell me he actually wrote an AI to do better prompt engineering so we can write code better, so we could use the prompt engineers to write code more effectively for himself, so we could create these intent models to go through and do it, and then to automatically update its own backend scripts as new things come out to put those things in place. And I'm like, how is that working? He goes, I think it's working great. I'm like, what do you mean? He goes, it's spitting out good code. I'm like, oh. But you don't know how to ask it if it's doing the good thing. You don't know how to ask these other component pieces. And that's when I'm like, oh shit, this is just like dealing with people. Like, I don't know what the squishy part that's going on inside of this. And we've just become so enamored with the idea that machines are predictable and create predictable, consistent results that as we get into the soft, squishy world of AI, where machines are spitting out things that aren't necessarily the most accurate 100% way of doing things, is they become these inference models of probability.
Right. Just like us.
It's gonna get just like us. It's gonna get fucking scary because we don't have a source of truth. Because our source of truth was all this data that we stored in one spot, compiled, and can go back and go look and go, here's the answer.
Yep.
Not there anymore, guys. Sorry.
Nope. Now
we're more alone in the wilderness than ever before.
And terrified and getting more scared every day. If you're me, anyways.
Just be sure to drink your Ovaltine, kids.
That's all right. Well, I'm sure everything we've already said, or everything that we've said in the last 30 minutes is already antiquated and out of date. So go ahead and skip to the next episode if you've gotten this far, because this is probably already old information. That next episode, at least here in reality, will be available in about a week at thefitmess.com. Thanks so much for listening. If you found this as terrifying as I have, please share it with someone else to scare them just as much. We'll see you in about a week at thefitmess.com.
Thanks everyone. Bye-bye.
We know this podcast is amazing and it doesn't seem to lack anything, but we need a legal disclaimer. Prior to implementing anything discussed in this podcast, it is your responsibility to conduct your own research and consult your physician. You should assume that these knuckleheads don't know what they're talking about, and they're not liable for any physical or emotional issues that occur directly or indirectly from listening to this podcast.